This is my first NACIS. Thank you all for having me. This is a bit humbling that my first NACIS talk is not about a really cool thing that I've made, but just a really bad business decision that I've made. There's a certain amount of lore here, so if you've heard the story, bear with me. I'm from New York. I moved to California, where I lived for about 10 years. I love Oakland. I had just started a new GIS consulting job that I wasn't sure if I was going to become emotionally invested in. I'm sure none of you have had the same experience. Hashtag gig economy. And as I was trying to figure out where my career had gone wrong, my nerd friends on Twitter were passing around this article in, of all places, the Providence Journal. And it was about how this guy, Andy Nosell, had tried to give away a map store in 2016. The price was too high. The price got lower in the subsequent years until finally in 2023, the price had reached zero. And he promised that if you sent him a particularly compelling email, he would give the store to you, like Willy Wonka style. And I was at exactly the right moment of like personal and professional crisis that seemed like maybe not the worst idea. So in true impractical cartography sense, I sent him an email and he called my bluff. I took my issue to Twitter, as I often do. And I made a poll, if you can't read it in the back. It says, should I move to Rhode Island to take ownership of a 70-year-old map store in a converted mill building? 89.8% of my followers declared it is your destiny. Some of the comments are pretty fun. Hey, here's one from Lizzie Diamond. How could you not / can I come? You knew what we all would say. You're tweeting this from the map place in Rhode Island, right? The short story is, you know, I flew out, I checked the place out, I flew back to California. I had a 6-month-long midlife crisis. I decided that I really liked living in Oakland, and I really liked the idea of moving across the country to do something a little bit stupid. And I decided that if you have two really good options, you should take the one that's a better story. And this is the better story, and that's why I'm doing it. So now I get to talk a little bit more about like the business angle of things. So this is both deeply practical and impractical. But like I knew that like a map store could be a thing because like there are a few of them out there. Metzger Maps, for those of you who have had the pleasure in Seattle, it's an excellent map store. I personally have never actually been. I have in the past said that this is my closest competition. Apologies to my Canadian friends. World of Maps in Ottawa is also a very good map store of similar ilk. What makes these stores different is that they're not antique map stores. Antique map stores are all over the place. They're not particularly uncommon. These are actually producing stuff made by people who are still alive and paying rent. This is a more interesting model to me. As I was thinking about like what made my vision, my incarnation of the Map Center, an institution that's been around since 1953, I'm now the 4th owner. What does my chapter look like? And I decided that I liked the idea of a funky, vinyl record store of a map place, something that was going to be fun to browse, something that was going to kind of lean into maybe a little bit of the hipsterdom. And paper's the new vinyl was sort of a slogan that I came out with. I still have some stickers left if you want to grab one. One idea that I had that I decided is sort of a personal line that I didn't want to cross is I love gimmick and kitsch, and I like things that are silly, and also like I want those gimmicks to serve a purpose, and I personally find scratch-off maps not really my vibe. I'm from upstate New York, so whenever I run into someone who's like, oh yeah, I was just in New York, I usually ask like, okay, like which of the maybe 2, maybe 3 boroughs did you really mean? Like I'm from, the rest of the state that city happens to be attached to. So anyway, the idea that like one would spend 8 hours in the Charles de Gaulle airport and say that they've been to France is just like moderately offensive, and I don't like it. One of the great benefits, I mean, like a lot in business, people talk about like, what is your unfair advantage? I think one of mine is that I know all of you. We in this room know that cool stuff is being made all the time. Most civilians do not know that. So it is my immense pleasure that I get to deliver really cool things that people have recently made. This is the City of Women map that was in the Infinite Cities. This is Rebecca Solnit. It's the New York City subway system, but all of the stops have been renamed for real women who have lived nearby those stops. I could look at this for ages. Most people have never seen anything remotely like this. It does blow minds. The map store is sort of like right on the line between Providence and Pawtucket. We pronounce it Pawtucket. It's like a P apostrophe, Pawtucket, yeah. Rhode Island is often called charmingly run down. Providence is sort of like emphasis on the charming. Pawtucket is sort of emphasis on the run down. But like one of the great things about a map store in Rhode Island is that, it's a state that's very accustomed to being a little call-out box on the side. And so it's very flattering when you get to be the center of your own map. And people really respond to a map of a very specific part of the world that happens to speak to them directly. So I wanted to make sure that I emphasized not just maps of big places, but also maps of small places so that whoever my customer is, whoever walks in the door, I've got something for them. It's really hard. Another of my sort of core principles is this idea that adventure is not a destination, adventure is a frame of mind. Instagram is very good at bringing everyone to a handful of locations, and I want to show people that like their backyard is actually a pretty cool place to go to. So I've got all the outdoor guides. They don't really sell all that well, interestingly enough. This is all everything that I say here is anecdata. I don't know how seriously you want to take any of it, but I've spent 2 years watching people, sample size Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Take that as you will. And another thing that was really important to me is that I think that maps are for everybody. Kids freaking love maps. I'm trying not to make a map store exactly just for me personally. That's not a really sustainable business model. But like as a kid, I liked maps. I'm going to go ahead and guess that that's true for a lot of you. So like I know that like there is a market for this out there. Kids are some of my best customers. Well, obviously they're parents, but parents really love watching their kids using something other than a tablet. So there's definitely a market there. And this is it. There are a handful of you out there I know who have had the great pleasure of visiting. I appreciate you all. It's a beautiful disaster. I wanted to mention some things that I felt might be useful to you as people who make maps that you might want to sell to other people who might want to buy maps. Who are my customers? Unlike the previous owner, my customers tend to be younger. I'm not going to define younger. They tend to value novelty, uniqueness. They're a lot more comfortable with map as story as opposed to map for information. They really love fantasy and pop culture references. And again, they just really love like playing with their kids in a non-digital format. Older audiences, I still have a lot of older folks, especially older folks who still think that the Map Center is going to be run exactly in the manner it had been for a long time. And that's a little bit of a challenge on my part where I get to say, yes, I know that you're expecting a particular thing from me, and can I direct you to something that I think is a little more interesting? Older folks definitely going into nautical charts. I mean, we are the ocean state after all. They're less interested in like the style and the aesthetics, and they're really more interested in like the map as information. They really go for like National Geographic World and USA reference maps. Anyway, those are just sort of like my informal observations about some of the folks that come in. In respect to our opening speaker, Dr. Shine, I decided to make my own graph here. Most people like maps, so its obsession with maps is on the x-axis. So the farther to the right you go, the more excited people are. Most people just think that maps are neat. But on the tail, you have like very few people who just don't find maps interesting at all. And more interestingly to me, there is a number of people on the extreme right side that are very stoked about maps. But my customer base is not just that tail end of like the ultra fans. I like to say that like liking maps is a lot like liking birds. Like most people kind of like birds. There are a handful of people that like to go bird watching and they will travel across continents and they'll buy a $600 pair of binoculars. But like most people see a bird and they don't know what it's called, but it like made their day a little bit better. That's true of like most people and maps. Like people will get like a map themed set of curtains even if they don't know anything about maps. It's just like a cool aesthetic. So there's a range. So like on the low end of map enthusiasm, I might sell them a postcard, a map-themed like recycled topo envelope, maybe like a toy compass for their kid. As we're starting to get like higher obsession level, maybe a globe, maybe a road map, maybe a book. And then we get into like prints and the framed pieces, and that's sort of the tail end, nerds. The stuff that everyone likes. This is like the reliable stuff that I can pitch to people that come in. Places they've been on vacation and frustratingly specific areas of interest. Without doubt. And then also people just come in and say, like, I just want something old. A lot of times people don't have like really specific idea of like what they want, which is kind of liberating if you have a lot of things on hand to show them. This is an idea, and you have to forgive me, I've rewritten this like 7 times in the last week, but this is an idea that I thought was really important. There's original and unique. Original is like an antique map. The reason that there's so many antique map stores and so few stores like mine is that if you have an antique map, you can charge whatever you want for it. They're not making any more antiques. That's original. Now, a lot of things that are original are not necessarily unique. There are a lot of antiques that look kind of the same. So you might produce something that is unique, but if it came out of a printer and it looks like you can crank out another 1,000 of them in that printer, it is unique, but it is not original. So the balance for me is to create something that is both unique to the audience, something that they've never seen before, and also something that doesn't feel cheap and ubiquitous. And that's a challenge. It is part of my principle of having a chaos inventory. It's actually just sort of like retroactively describing a thing I've already done, not so much like a conscious decision forward. This is not a business strategy. But the idea here is that like for a bookstore, you need a vibe and you need selection, you need the illusion of choice. I used to work at a bookstore, and what I learned there is that even though like 90% of sales are for like the same dozen copies, like the same dozen titles, a store that only sells that dozen titles, that's not a bookstore, that's a vending machine. You have to have a lot of books that no one's going to buy so that you can go in and pretend that you're going to buy that one and then end up getting for whatever was on the New York Times bestseller list. Having a chaotic, crazy venue means that there's always something new to discover, and that if your parents are coming to visit, you can take them to the map center and you're not going to be rolling your eyes the whole time because there might actually be something new that you haven't seen on your 3rd visit. The problem is that it takes a really long time to build. Pricing and inventory are, it's expensive to buy stuff that is not going to sell. Not everything can be a loss leader. And it also, like pricing and inventory, keeping track of what you have and what you've sold is freaking hard. So that's something that I'm working on. Where does my chaos inventory come from? Well, some of it's free IP. Some of it is from the David Rumsey Center with attribution, I swear. A lot of this is more like print on demand stuff. A lot of people come in with like a trash bag of stuff from their parents' attic. I get a surprising number of donations. It really speaks to the power of what we do, that people cannot throw things away. And that's irritating for us as children of adult parents, but it's also, I think, a real testament to the power of what cartography can do, and that's all of you. I do a lot of wholesale. It's expensive because it means that I have to write a check initially, and I don't know if you can imagine this, but like my cash flow is not like the most robust. So wholesale purchases like make my life a lot easier, but also it's it's expensive and it's hard to do. And anyway, I'm sorry, Daniel Huffman. I know you keep getting me to try to write you a check for that next series, and like it's going to happen. I think I have 3 main types of map products, and like the first one is like infographics, and this is stuff that's like cute and small. It's like stuff that works well in like print journalism and stickers. There are things that you can only look at for like maybe 15 seconds, and that's the stuff that works well on like a pamphlet, a postcard, a sticker, or you can like compile them into a book, and that's a thing that you can sell. Otherwise, if you just have like a really cute graphic that you like went viral on Instagram, like that's not really a thing that you can print out and sell to somebody. Like how do you package that in a useful way? The next sort of, and by the way, like these aren't like hierarchical, you know, like all maps are good. We love them all. I'm from like the perspective of like selling things, you know, another section is like the gallery piece. You know, this is a map that's dazzling. This is like a lot of the stuff that is in the map gallery right now. It's technically interesting. You can look at it for a really long time. Is it something that you actually want to put in your living room? maybe, maybe not. Especially if it's like larger than 24 by 36, it's going to be really expensive to frame. That's the kind of thing that I might try to sell to like a business for like interior design, but it's not really my domestic consumer. And then last, you have like a framed piece, which is like really, I love to sell them because they are expensive, but in order to get into the hand of someone who actually wants it, it has to be a personal piece. It has to be either antique or it has to age well. It has to have like a timeless quality so that it's not going to just like feel outdated later. And you have to have like a good way of displaying it. Like it's not enough to just like catch something out of the printer and then and hand it to somebody. Giving someone as a gift like a piece of paper is like, here, you have a project, you frame it. That's not really doing anyone a favor. So let's hypothetically say that you've made a map and you want to sell it. Redbubble is a really easy way to do that because you can take your piece of IP and you can just like upload it, and then customers online can put that image onto like a mug or something like that. And Redbubble does everything. If you sell a thing, you will make, a fortune 5 cents at a time for every time that somebody buys something. It's really hard, just like the rest of the internet, just like YouTube, like 0.25% of users are making like 99% of the profit. It's really hard to get enough traffic to make any of this worthwhile. If you want to go a little bit more detailed, you go into Etsy, you start selling your own stuff. You're not going to rely on Redbubble to do your manufacturing. What you're going to do is you're going to make the stuff and you're going to like have it in boxes in your kitchen. And as the orders come in, you're going to like ship them out yourself. You get to keep more of that money, but it also just means a lot more work. And like, what if you end up getting like 500 mugs with your map on it and you only sell 50 of them? You're left holding the bag. So like Etsy is you more risk, more reward, and also you're fighting the algorithm, and also like Etsy has been getting worse. It's just a less fun experience for customers, and it's going to be harder for you as a seller to get that done. I also want to quickly mention, and sorry, I'm like a gas. I will expand to fill the time. So I just like yank the plug. There we go. That's all I'm after. I want to be respectful. Print on demand versus batch prints. We're getting a little bit of the economics. Like print on demand is what everyone tells me that I should be doing, which is that like if someone orders something, I don't have it on stock. I go to the printer and I get a fresh one right out of the machine. Problem is quality control is really hard because printers are finicky. You have to interrupt other orders to go back and forth between things, so it's a lot less efficient. And if you're dealing with people who are like you have a licensing agreement with you, you have to keep track of what you're printing so that you can make sure that you reimburse your artists appropriately. This ends up being really hard. On the other hand, batch prints, that's the other color here. Batch prints are a lot cheaper. That's if you're doing like, I'm just gonna do a run of like 50 prints or something like that. Way cheaper, it's more consistent, easier accounting, but then like what happens if there's like a flood? You've just spent like $500 with a really vulnerable stock that could get damaged, and then you'd make zero money on it. Like storage is an issue. So, and my store is very small, so storage is actually like at quite a premium. So that's sort of the trade-offs there. The other one is farmers markets, which are like way harder. It's way more labor intensive. If you have kids or like next door neighbors that you can recruit to help you out with that, I definitely recommend that. The other alternative is to do business with me. There are very few people who are doing the kind of brick and mortar discoverable stuff where you are marketing to people other than people who have clicked on map-related things in a browser recently. Targeted ads are really good at going after like a diminishing group of people who have already expressed interest in your product. A map store and a place for people who are casually interested to discover something new that they wouldn't have otherwise is a way of expanding the pie and not just fighting for an ever smaller bit. So then like, this is the really loaded question. So people are like, oh, so you run a map store. How is it going? How dare you? I'm making about $6,000 to $7,000 a month gross receipts with overhead. That's like I'm ending up like $1,000 on top. I'm trying not to increase my tax exposure, so I'm trying to pay that down as little. Oh, pardon me. This is what I'm actually looking at. So I'm trying not to make a profit. I'm trying to take every dollar that I'm getting back and put it back into the business, and that's sort of the the strategy for now, at least, and then you have to go back a little bit. So this is sort of like what the products are actually being sold. Framed is like a framed full piece ready to go. Map just refers to any like paper product that is map-like. I do a lot of like travel folded maps, that kind of thing. Books are doing really well. A lot of people know how to buy a book in a way that a lot of people do not know how to buy a piece of paper. The value proposition for a piece of paper is very challenging. A book is not. I'm also doing a little bit of classes. I'm on the library talk show circuit. Look for me next in Falmouth Public Library in Massachusetts. And then this is the part that's a little bit rough. I have been a contractor at Amtrak for the past year. My contract was not renewed last week. I call that sort of a soft doge. I'm now in the unenviable position, like many folks right now, not trying to be a tearjerker. The Map Center is like my job now. And it is super duper not ready to be my real job now. I've got some money, I can make it last a little bit longer, but I really just feel like I'm buying green bananas. And what I mean by that is like, I ran out of packing tape last week, and I was either gonna like buy the 36 bulk pack of packing tape because it's like a lot cheaper per unit, and that's like the better business decision, but also it implies that I'm gonna be in business for the next 2 years. And I was thinking really seriously about maybe just getting like the 4-pack. And in the past couple of weeks, and this is one of the reasons why I keep rewriting this piece, is I'm still trying to figure out what the next part is. In my imagination, I would love to be like the Bass Pro Shops of maps. I want to be like a flagship, like renowned destination retail experience where people come and they get to experience something. It's not just retail; it's also like a good time. Have like a little like espresso machine in there. That takes like really like a lot of commercial real estate as opposed to like a cute downtown thing. This is mainly Maps and Frames in Portland, which I love. But like there's like the cute downtown model where you have to be like pretty refined and like a lot more expensive, or you can sort of go like giant estate style bonanza. That's sort of like the two poles. I don't know which. If you're trying to convince someone to give you money to expand, like if you're a restaurant and you're like, I have 10 tables and they're always busy, I would like to expand to a place that has 20 tables. That's a pretty good value proposition. That makes sense. I'm not in that situation. I'm not actually making I'm not making that much money, but I think that I could make more money if I was in a bigger location that was closer to downtown and therefore is more expensive. That is a very challenging business proposition. This is an empty space that I had the great pleasure of touring a couple of weeks ago. It's in downtown Providence. I love it. It is like 3 times my budget. I just got a text this morning from the Providence mayor office, and they're going to try to help me out with a couple of things. But like, I have no idea what's going to happen next. It's a scary time for a lot of people, and I'm going to be real about that. But it also doesn't make sense to leave something that is still making money. It's not enough for me to live off of, but I don't have anything else going on. So I better just like keep doing it and making it better as long as I can, because I think it's important and I think people like it and I think that has value. What I will end with, just like some quick advice to cartographers. Are you ready to pull it? You're ready to pull it? Okay, quick. People want to see your work even if they don't want to buy it. Before you set up your print layout, go to the frame store. Watch strangers looking at your work. They are stoked about it. And in the specific as the universal, make something honest. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Any questions for Andrew? Right up front.
So you made mention very quickly of a bit about doing the library circuit. I'm just kind of curious about a little bit of what that is. Like, do you host talks about? I don't know. Please explain.
I mean, this is like a master business move. I'm basically Steve Jobs. Go where the money is. Public libraries. I have like a little shtick called How Maps Lie. It will tell you 0 new things for people here. It's not for you. They give me a little bit of money.
Cool. I might want to talk to you about that later because I have a brother who's a library guy. So
let's make it happen.
Oh, you just hand it over. Yeah.
Hi, thank you for giving this talk. It was super interesting. So let me rephrase this. You had a great in with that Providence Journal article being asked, essentially being given a business for free.
I would like to say, though, it was given to me for free and I overpaid.
I see. What, I don't know if you've heard from like other business owners or anything like that, but if you have it, what advice would you give to someone who is very interested in following in your footsteps, but without that in of a retiring guy who is giving? But what if I really want to?
Yeah, right.
California.
In all seriousness, California is so ready for what I'm trying to do. And if you're serious, like let's talk afterwards. But like the people who are my ideal customers are people who have a strong sense of place. And when I think about people who are from other places, like there's nothing more Californian than not being from California. And people want maps to remind them of that they do in fact belong wherever they live, or that there's another place far away that they also belong. And that's really powerful. And ultimately, like what we are doing is we're not selling information. Like Google exists. If you're the largest companies on earth are giving away information. Do not be in the business of selling information. We're selling a story. And I think that's more compelling than any numerical business advice that I could give, because I'm not exactly like crushing it in that direction. I'm not Jack Dangermond here.
Thank you. That is fantastic advice. Thank you.
All right. While I'm walking up here, if anyone has any empty seats next to them, there are a lot of people standing that might enjoy a seat.
This is exciting. I think it's going to work out. I think it's a good thing, the change that's happening for you. So sorry to be so encouraging. Being very
Insufferable.
Two questions. One is, do you ever do residencies in archives, or like what are your relationships with archives in your experience? Because I see so much archiveness in what you're doing, but also potential for collaboration with existing archives. And the other thing I want to say is let's talk later, because I have a project that maybe there's a connection.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to talking about that. My relationship with archives is very minimal because I'm organized as an LLC. I'm an incorporated private organization, and I'm for profit. And that's kind of a default position. That's not really like a strong strategic decision that I made that was just sort of like, yeah, I'm starting a business, I'll start an LLC. That means that there are some avenues that are not open to me. And one of them is that like every map library in the country weeds its maps, and like they'll ask other institutions, hey, like, do you want some of these maps? And if no one calls dibs on them, they go in the dumpster. And they cannot give them to me because I'm a profit-making entity. One day I'm totally gonna be a profit entity. Yeah, I'm seriously thinking about reincorporating as a nonprofit, because then it'd be a lot easier to work with libraries, archives, institutes of higher education. There are like 8 colleges in Providence. I'd love to start doing like QGIS certification program. Ideas are cheap. Energy, money, execution is harder. But yeah, let's chat.
Hi, I'm a map librarian, and we also buy lots of maps. Have you thought about doing like a standing order program where like there's an automatic purchase every new thing in certain category you acquire, we buy? A lot of kind of bigger businesses do that. I don't know if that would be a
This is
reasonable
brand
model.
spanking new to me. I'm taking notes over here. Let's talk afterwards. Lots of people have cool business ideas and like absolutely give them to me, but also like, again, ideas are cheap. So I like let's talk one-on-one afterwards, because I think that's more productive anyway. And also I want to hear Dylan.
Dylan Moriarty is a cartographer at the Washington Post, painter, pie maker, associate producer on an actual movie, and happy to be here.